I'm Mel Akerman.
And I'm Carla Pecoraro. And we're your hosts of the Uterine Sound podcast, bringing you up-to-date information in all things O&G.
Welcome to our very first episode.
Today, we'd like to talk a little bit about what this podcast is about, why we made it, and give you a bit of background on your hosts.
The Uterine Sound is a medical education podcast designed for Australian and New Zealand trainees sitting their RANZCOG examinations. But we also hope it will be useful for anyone interested in obstetrics and gynecology. Whether you're a medical student, a midwife, a junior doctor, or a consultant, we'll cover the topics you need to know.
The idea for the podcast originally started when I was studying for my RANZCOG written examination. I found that I had to use so many different resources in order to get a comprehensive overview of the topics I needed to know. Now, when you're working full-time, have a type A personality, and are trying to learn as much as possible about everything, time becomes really precious. I turned to podcasts to help me make the most of my time while I was exercising or driving to work. But what I noticed was that there were very few O&G podcasts out there, and even fewer aimed at RANZCOG trainees. I wanted a podcast that would get straight to the point and tell me everything I needed to know without any waffle. I actually wanted to make this podcast and call it Chop Chop, a to-the-point podcast on obstetrics and gynecology. But work and life got in the way, and I never really made it happen.
Not to mention Chop Chop sounds like a cooking podcast at best, and a tardy Caesar at worst. It was actually Anne who brought this idea to life.
I remember, Mel, we were catching up on the phone and I mentioned I was thinking about starting a podcast, and I think you pretty much said, yep, let's do it, and then rattled off a million ideas about how it should go from here. From there, we recruited Carla. I booked our first meeting and we were off. It was actually my husband Fraser who commandeered the name The Uterine Sound, based off the instrument we used to measure the size of the uterine cavity, and believe it or not, he even did our intro music.
If you want to get something done, you go to Anne. This girl does not muck around. And yes, also kudos to Fraser, who after a short stint in O&G has abandoned us to save lives in the emergency department. And apart from being incredibly organised, extremely productive, and slightly awkward yet lovable, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm a Queensland obstetrics and gynecology registrar. I also love statistics. I've just finished my master's in biostatistics, and believe it or not, I've actually really enjoyed reading the RANZCOG landmark trials that we need to know for our exams. In my spare time, which I have none of at the moment, thank you, exam study, I like to sew, read novels, and travel.
And I'm Carla. I'm a first-year PHO or an unaccredited registrar. I drive an hour to and from work every day, which means I listen to lots of different podcasts and I practice my hand ties at red lights. Over the past year, I've studied for and passed USMLE Steps 1 and 2, and I'm now doing a lot of firsts in birth suite and in theatre. I'm also studying for my Certificate of Women's Health. When I'm not working or driving, I love parkrun, Pilates, and Pinot Noir, and podcasts.
I'm Mel. I'm a fifth-year advanced trainee at the beautiful Sunshine Coast. I've sat both my written and oral exams and dabbled in a bit of research, but what I really enjoy is teaching. I run the Griffith Uni CBLs along with Professor Ted Weaver and try to sneak in some bedside teaching whenever I can. Probably my favourite thing to do is to go down random medical rabbit holes to get useless fun facts. That and wakeboarding, although I'm much better at the rabbit holes.
So that's a little snapshot of the team behind the Uterine Sound. Together, we'll cover everything you need to know in O&G. Whether you're preparing for your exams or just wanting to brush up on your knowledge, we've got you covered.
We'll also cover some of their most recent up-to-date evidence in O&G. You're welcome. So what are you waiting for? Head straight to the next episode, follow us on Instagram at The Uterine Sound, and email us at theuterinesound@gmail.com.